Hello and welcome to my video. I'll be going over using OrgMode for Emacs for basic to-do list and note-taking. This is a pretty simple tutorial. I'm hoping I don't have to dig into a .emacs file. I just loaded Emacs. You can kind of see here, it looks like a stock Emacs. That's because I loaded up with the -q. The -q option, which loads it up without any initialized files. Basically just as clean as possible, and we're gonna go ahead and try to grok through OrgMode with that. I wanted to go over kind of like why I want to use OrgMode, why I've been using it, you know, how you can handle simple to-do lists, and then how to handle note-taking and so on. So first of all, I use project management suites of project management software at work. Namely, I'm using currently Pivotal Tracker, and I guess for a team of like 6-ish developers that kind of works out, but it can get really messy. And I realized kind of early on in my development career that outside of having a project management software where I keep track of my tasks like Basecamp or Trello or whatever, I kind of needed my own small to-do list, and that really helped me set myself up for the day. Kind of write down, like, let's say 4 tasks I really need to finish, write down notes about it, my progress about it, and so on. What also works out kind of with this little to-do list system is that I every morning we have a stand up, and I have to kind of quickly go through what I did the day before and what I got done, what I didn't get done, what stage everything is in, and it's easier for me to keep up my own to-do list rather than use a project management software, you know, it's never entirely accurate. It's kind of accurate as to like what is in progress for me, not necessarily what I did the day before. So I kind of want to show you all my usual system. So this is Notepad++. If you're on Windows, I wish I could zoom in. I don't remember how to do that. If you're a Windows developer, or if you're on Windows, Notepad++ is by far one of the coolest pieces of software there is. It loads up quickly, it can load enormous files, it can do just so much. And it might sound like a joke, but it's not. It really is one of my favorite pieces of software. One of the reasons is that if I use Hain, H-A-I-N, which is like a launcher, let me go ahead and, well, who cares? I can load it up within like a split second. And it also saves your kind of work in progress buffers or your tabs. You just double click and you can make a new file. If you exit out of Notepad, and this is Hain, H-A-I-N, the launcher that you just saw, it'll load it up. Well, I didn't have any text, so let's try that. It doesn't prompt you to save or not save, and it's back with all the text that you need. So what I would do in the morning is something like this. I don't know, let's say check Excel report column styling for numbers. That's like a real task I did a few days ago. Capitalize Excel report column headings, and I might write a little note. Capitalize first word, lowercase rest, and I might have something like review pull requests for remaining report fixes. Sorry about the typing, lots of typing, and you can kind of see that maybe the keystroke visualization is a little bit too much here. But I would do something like this, and then I like Markdown mode, so I would just write some, you know, do like today, and then at the end of the day, I would just rename this as, I don't know, today's Friday, so I would write Thursday. And I'll do today. And after my morning stand-up, I would just delete this. If it was like an O, that means that it's in progress. If it's like an X, that means that it's done. Just kind of simple to-do management, and it really worked well for me. But then I discovered OrgMode. So let's go ahead and load up an org file. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that you have, whoops, I opened up something I didn't mean to. I'm going to assume that you have some basic Emacs knowledge. And if you don't, I highly recommend the Practical Emacs tutorial. It's right here. Hopefully I'm going to remember to add a link on the bottom. And it's really, really cool. And I've gone through pretty much all of these. You can see that I've gone through OrgMode recently. And yeah, I've gone through pretty much the entire thing here. And it was actually enjoyable using Emacs the way it's supposed to be used instead of with evil mode. I love evil mode, but sometimes, you know, just it feels like it's not the stock experience, and I really like to dig into the stock experience. So let's go ahead and create a new org file. An org file just means that it starts with that it ends with the .org extension. Now I think, let's see, I have Dropbox here. No. Okay, let me. Oh well, I don't know if I'm gonna find it. So let's go ahead and just go to my. I'm in projects in the projects section. So let's go ahead and just create a file here, and we'll call it just like, I don't know, todos.org. Cool. And so this is it, right? This is an org file. You don't see anything different. Let me go ahead and just zoom in. Wait, am I doing it wrong? Whoops, whoops, whoops. All right. As you can see, I'm not the biggest aficionado of. Oh, I keep using the wrong thing. It's not. I think it's Control C, Control X, plus. 1 second. Control X, Control X. No? Control X, Control. I thought I had to zoom in. God. Alright. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a text scale increase. And we'll do that a couple times. Yeah, so I don't have my Emacs file set up. So you can see that I'm kind of blundering about a little bit. Let's go ahead and go through the basics of OrgMode. So OrgMode, in a way, is a way to... It's like a format similar to, let's say, Markdown. Markdown obviously came out a lot later than OrgMode, but it's very similar in that you kind of organize your text with headings. You only use text to signify to tell something about the text. You know, like in Markdown, you have, if you surround a word with stars, it means that it's bolded. That should be actually the same here. Bold it. Yep. And there are a few other shortcuts. I'm gonna go ahead and actually pull up my engineering notebook here on the right because it's easier. Now, the coolest thing about OrgMode, like the coolest thing that you're gonna encounter first, are these headings here. So a star is actually a heading in OrgMode. It's not a list like you would in Markdown. And let's say you have a today, right? So this is gonna be my little to-do list. Now, when I press tab, you don't see anything happening. But what's cool is that anything that you put under that heading will immediately hide when you press tab or show. You see how that's working? And that's really cool. So yeah, I might end up with something like, I create subheadings for this. I don't really like a regular to-do list, but I would start with something like, you know, I don't know, finish report, report bug where, I don't know, report doesn't download, right? And that's kind of cool, and you get a little bit of that syntax highlight. Let me go ahead and do another text scale increase, make it a little bit bigger, make it full screen, text scale increase again. There we go. Okay, and that might be one task. And so let's say another task will be, I don't know, review existing bug PRs. There might be a few more of those than just one. So let's just say, you know, there's a bug fix for Excel report name. I'm doing a lot of Excel reporting these days, so that's why this is coming up. Bug fix for Excel for report location, and let's just say there is a new feature, and that'll be additional column option for report generation. And then we're gonna add one more task, and we'll just say like a increase width of download button. Cool. And so we've got that there. I might add a little bit of styling there. So some of the basic styling in OrgMode is, you know, you have the bold, right? So we're just gonna bold something. Let's see. We're gonna go ahead and just bold the report name, right? So we can do that. We can go ahead and just make something italic, that's slashes. So bold, italic. I don't really use these often. You can tell they're kind of very intuitive. The slashes really make sense to me. I don't use these often. There's a verbatim, which is more like a quote, and then there's code. You know, these highlight the same way, but they might not highlight the same way in every single theme. And on top of that, when you do an export, they'll export differently into HTML. And that's important for exporting, but it's not super important for us. We're gonna just go ahead and close that up. Isn't that kind of neat, right? You can do today. You can do weekly tasks. Oops, what did I do here? Yeah, we can do weekly tasks. Maybe there are some overarching weekly tasks like prep for Friday meeting, or I might have another task that says compile progress report on Excel reporting feature. So that's kind of cool. You can have an infinite amount of subheadings. I believe 4 subheadings is kind of like the default that people usually don't go past that. Now, under each subheading, and you might be thinking, well, that's weird. Why would you have a heading under another heading? Well, you don't have to. So let's go ahead and start writing some notes so it doesn't download. Oh, what does that exactly mean? When user presses button, report is generated on the server side. User never gets the report. I might even have a link to, let's say if I want to kind of connect this to my project management suite. Links are made with braces, so unlike Markdown, it's a little bit easier. Well, I think it's a little bit easier. If you just put in an HTTP or whatever link into 2 braces, it turns into a link that you can click. If you press backspace, it kind of expands it. And I usually don't like having, I usually do like having just the URL as the link, but if you want to actually have it a title, kind of, you know, let's say the content of an href or content of an anchor tag instead of having just a link, you might say like pivotal tracker, what is it, task that's associated with this. And I can make this into a list. Uh-oh. That's happened to me before. Let's see. What am I doing here? There we go. Whoops. There we go. And so I have the pivotal tracker task. And I can close this again, you know. And I can add some other information. So, you know, keep in mind, links are this kind of format. Whoops. I'm going to add an extra space here. But if you don't add that extra space, it'll work. So next thing that I want to go through is, so we kind of have that basic to-do list that I talked about. But instead of having these kinds of brackets, which you can use, let me see if you can. Yeah, you can, but what you can usually do is use OrgMode's built-in to-do functionality. So if you just press Shift and right, it'll go ahead and change your heading into a to-do item. If you press Shift and right again, it'll mark it as done. Shift left, Shift right. You kind of cycle through these, and you can add extra states, but that's kind of the basic. So I'm going to go ahead and just add these states to each one of these tasks. And so you can already see that this is a much better replacement to my Notepad++, where I would have to manually kind of check this off. If I had any notes that kind of get in the way, it's not visually appealing. But here, it's pretty easy. I have more notes. I have the task. I can look through here. These are subtasks, so I can do that. I can make subtasks be their own tasks. And that's kind of like the biggest part of OrgMode. So, you know, just keep in mind, Shift left and Shift right. You cycle through the states. Not being a to-do, being a to-do, being done. Those are the basic states. The next thing that I want to kind of show you about OrgMode is more about organization. If I want to set a priority, and this is more like a visual indicator than anything that OrgMode does for you. Again, it's just kind of inserting interactive text, so to speak. You press Shift up and Shift down. Now A is the top priority. Whoops, I pressed enter by accident. You can do Shift up to get to it, Shift or Shift down to kind of cycle through these tasks. Once you get into like more involved, like advanced org mode, you'll be able to sort by priority or display only certain tasks by priority and so on. So yeah, let's go ahead and why don't we just write down notes for this real quick. So to-do management, shift plus left is shift plus left right equals to cycle through to-do states. We'll go ahead and just say shift plus up down cycle through priority states. And I like making notes like that for myself. Cool, we'll save that. So we have links, we have this is link, HTTPS link, and we'll just go ahead and do link text. And we'll just, for full whatever, we'll go ahead and just create the real one. And so yeah, if you remove that space, it'll become link. Anyway, so we have the to-do management. Next thing you can do with OrgMode, and I'm really kind of ramping up here. With just this information, I think you can use OrgMode for practical to-do management really easily. But if you want to be a little bit fancier and you want to move these to-dos around, so let's just go ahead and set a priority. And let's just say I don't want to use any advanced features and I just want to move these tasks around myself. You press Alt and direction up and down. And you see how it kind of cycles through where that increase width of download button is. You can move it around freely. I don't know what's with this extra space, but I've noticed that it sometimes happens. I think some of these have like an extra space on the bottom. Okay, and so, you know, you can go ahead and manage these. Maybe I want to add a new one. And I'll just go ahead and do, you know, priority A, and I'll just say push existing code to staging server. We'll go ahead and assign it A and move it all the way up top. So let's just write that down. Alt up down equals moving heading around. And you can do that with any heading, and it'll move all the contents of that heading. So let's just say I want to have weekly tasks all the way up top. So I'll just press Alt up, and everything in there is up, and the to-do list manager, all of this is down here. And you can kind of see the power of this more. I keep pressing Shift by accident when you do this. You see how it's switching around? Yeah. So that's cool. You can also promote and downgrade, promote, I guess, or demote headings. So let's just say this review existing PRs is actually a task part of the pushing the code to staging server. And it might be. So you press Shift. Wait, Shift, is it? Alt and Shift together and press right. And it'll increase the, you can see that it added an extra bullet. You can decrease it, and increase it. And increases and decreases everything inside as well. Just be wary that if you do increase it to a main heading and then try to decrease it, you see what what happened there? Let me go ahead and do undo. I increase into the main heading, and that automatically makes these two tasks part of it. So when I decrease it, I kind of get into this weird situation. But it's okay. Maybe I want to, let's say, promote this one to be its own task. Yeah, so you can kind of mess around with it and do all kinds of things like that with it. I think that's, you know, without digging too deeply into OrgMode, this is like the majority of the tasks that you'll be using. Now, the only other thing that I feel like needs to be mentioned is how to set your own states. Because to do and done is not very good for me. I don't really like that. What I would like to have is a to-do, processing, done, and abandoned. This gets a little bit. This gets a little bit. I don't want to say hairy, but it's a bit more of involved with OrgMode than I would usually like it to. So in your .emacs file, you can actually set up a variety of states. You can color them. You can do all kinds of things that you want to do. But I like to have per file states. I like to have like a default and then per file states that make sense for whatever I'm doing. So in work, it's actually important. I'll show you. So to set options on a file or to add metadata, it's pretty easy. You go to the top of the file and you do pound sign or hashtag or whatever you want to call it, plus, and we're going to go ahead and actually set a title first. So we'll just do work to-dos. And this is important for exports, again, for exports, because if you do an export, it'll name the file this way, or it'll use it as a main heading, or whatever else. But I like to have titles anyway. This is one part of OrgMode that I find kind of ugly, is these settings on top. And I wonder if there's a theme or a setting to like hide these settings unless invoked, because I feel like they're just extra crap. Extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. So we're going to go ahead and just write these out. So the way you write down the states is literally just space separated. I can have an on hold, processing, and done, abandoned. If you save and reload this file, all of these options will be ready for you. But if you just press Control-C, Control-C within this section up here with the metadata, it'll refresh the file with all the new options included. Sorry about this text scale thing. I don't know why, but that's like one thing that hopefully I won't have to do this too often. Text scale increase. Bam. All right, maybe there's a way to do it multiple times. So now that I did that, I can actually put these in different state. So you know what? This is actually on hold. This actually is done, but it's going to be waiting. So I'm going to add a new, or on hold. Well, on hold makes me think of something else. I'm just going to go ahead and add a state called waiting. And we'll do this. Hopefully I can do a text scale increase like 5. No, I can't. Well, I did not want to do that. Well, whatever. So now I can actually set this one to waiting, a waiting state. That means that, let's say, it's waiting to be reviewed. It's waiting for something else to happen. This is actually on hold, so we're going to leave that. I finished this one. And this one is actually abandoned. So it's still green. You can see the pipe kind of separates the done states from the in progress states, or from the unfinished states. I have not seen anybody have like in between like this. This doesn't work. You can't have like multiple states, but in your .emacs you can, let's say, assign in orange color for these two states, and that'll make sense for you. But I don't know how to do that inside of an org file. So let's just write this down. OrgMode Options. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm going to create a source block. This is just a block for code or whatever. I just don't want it to execute. That's all. Title of document. And the other option, oops, is going to be sequence to do and to do done states. All right. That kind of makes it kind of weird, doesn't it? Let's just go ahead and indent it for better readability. And you can collapse these sections as well if you want to. I like that. All right. So, to-do management, we've gone through that. OrgMode options, we've gone through that. The only other thing that I think I started using more recently is tags. You can kind of pre-write tags for easy auto-completion in the up here. So I'm going to go ahead and do bug, feature, chore. Those are kind of like the 3 main categories of most project management suites. Again, I would have to do a CC. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to run that. Oh, let me go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and write this down. C plus C, C plus C will yield, what is it? Run options plus reload file. So we're going to go ahead and write that down. And you can see I'm starting to take a lot of notes here, and we're going to go into that next. And this is getting to be a video that's much longer than I expected. Yeah. All right. This is getting a little bit more complicated than I expected. But this is kind of, this is my workflow every day. I don't use the priorities as often as I should. I don't like to. So this is literally what my to-do list looks like every day. And it's kind of cool. I like it. You can also assign, let me assign the tags real quick. So you assign tags, and let's go ahead and do a section with Control C, Control Q. Assign tag to heading. I'm using the syntax with the pluses because it makes more sense to me, but you might see it in documentation with the dash. All right, so let's do a Control C, Control Q. And you can see on the bottom, it's very small, and I'm not going to increase the font size here. But in this little area here, it asks you what tags you want to add. I'm pressing tab, and there's no autocompletion. But if I had autocompletion included, right, it would autocomplete to bug because it knows that. So I'm going to assign a bug to it. I'm going to go ahead and see if this one is a feature, and this one is a chore. And you can see that it kind of spaces them out, make sure they're all the way on the right, and it's easier to read. Again, for advanced OrgMode users, you'll be able to basically search and sort through all these to-do items by state, by tag, by search word, all these different ways of looking through it. But for somebody like me, this is just the easiest way for me to make sure that I have everything in place and just to keep track of my to-do lists, my to-do tasks. Let's go ahead and save it. I'm gonna go ahead and run the CC for this. Let me see if I can do the okay. I wonder if there's a font size that I can. Nope. All right, whatever. I did some other things here by accident. All right. Okay, so you can kind of barely see this. I'm gonna switch to a different file, but if I do a Control C, Control Q on this one, and I want to add a new tag, you can already see that there is a previous tag. It's really hard to see, but it says bugs. If I type in FE and tab, it'll autocomplete the feature. I press enter. Got both tags over here. So we're going to go ahead and create a new file. We're going to call it notes. We're going to go ahead and go to the notes section of this tutorial. Text increase. What is it? Text scale increase. I really wish there was a way to do it several times. We're going to go ahead and spend a second on this. Alright, if I use my dedicated plus sign on my numeric pad, it works. Nice! So this is an OrgMode file as well. We're going to go ahead and just set the title, engineering notes, and this is, I'm going to show you all how I have my own engineering notebook and why it's so powerful. We kind of started on the idea of these notebooks with the to-dos. Right? Let's see. We kind of have our notes here. We have styling, so we know how to style things. We have links. We have to-do management, and so on. This is literally how I learned Emacs and all the other things. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring in my notebook as soon as I'm done kind of going through this. And there are a few things to keep in mind. I would say that the top level heading should always be like a section heading. So I wouldn't have like a notes and then like more notes. I would have something like, let's say, Emacs. I would have a separate one called Emacs OrgMode. And I might have, I would definitely set up tags for this. We're going to go ahead and get a little bit more fancier. I'm going to do Emacs OrgMode editor will be some of my tasks. I'll even put games and apps, get, vim, or let's say Elixir, work, vim. Those are kind of like my tags that I'll be using. And we're not going to have any to-dos in this one, but what we can do here is create shortcuts. I'm going to show you what that looks like. What would be a good one? Maybe D, G, A. I don't like this, but, well, let's go ahead and delete the games. We don't need those. We don't need editor because we use Emacs. We'll do G, and we're just going to keep it there. Whoops. And we're going to go ahead and do Control-C, Control-C, Control-C. I'm going to go ahead and just zoom back in. So what this does is when you do Control-C, Control-Q to add a new tag, you can see that there's like an auto-completion field all the way on the bottom here. I wonder if I can... I can't. I cannot zoom in this part. But it has like a little E, Emacs, O for OrgMode, A for apps, G for Git. It looks at these letters over here and sees them as kind of shortcuts to these different tags. Whoops, what is happening here? All right, so we'll just do Control-C, Control, it's an Emacs, and I'll just go ahead and say that it has nothing to do with OrgMode, so enter. We'll see that this one is Emacs and OrgMode, and we're gonna go ahead and add a new heading for Git. We're gonna G for Git, and you can see that it kind of quickly snowballs, and we're gonna say that one of my favorite apps is, let's say, well, let me look at my real thing, my real engineering notebooks. I don't actually use this one. Oh, apps Windows. Okay, so we're gonna do Windows utilities. I like to use Windows, and Windows utilities will be in apps. Ooh, what did I do? Yeah. That's strange. Alright. Having some weird situation here. So let's go ahead and delete this heading. Do I have caps lock or something? Ah, this has never happened before. When in doubt, close out Emacs. Oh, I see. All right. As you can see, I'm not an expert, and I just kind of wasted a few minutes of your time. Let's go ahead and go back to the notes. Org file. There we go. We're going to go ahead and zoom in. And we're going to go ahead and assign this one, apps. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and add Audio Switch is actually one of the useful apps that I like. And this is kind of what I would do with some quick audio switcher. Useful for Bluetooth versus speaker output settings. Works with Win 10, which is a huge deal. I'm going to say that. And I can go ahead and collapse it. And what you can do is kind of pretty quickly build on your notes. We're going to go ahead and just go to the to-do file. I'm going to go ahead and just copy these items that we had here. Don't worry about how you can make this happen. And what I'm going to do is select all of this. And I'm going to use our, what is it, Shift-Alt-Right. What happened? There, Alt-Right, my bad. Was it really? Yeah, Alt-Right. I don't know why I thought it was Shift-Alt. Well, let's see. What did I write down? Shift-Alt is moving the headings around. And Alt plus left-right, indent, unindent. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my notebook. And so quickly you can actually create a pretty massive notebook with a lot of cool information there. And I'm going to go ahead and just, I don't think there's anything else that I need to show you here other than just that search works really well here. Like if I'm looking for that audio switcher, I'm like, I have to do something with audio. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to have it here. Let me show you my to-do list. Let's see if I can open it. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go ahead and open it here. There's not much really else to add to taking notes with engineering. Yeah, there we go. There's not much else that you can really do or that you need to add to OrgMode to really make it work nicely. It's really just these tags, to-do items, and getting the headings and just using the tabs really well. if you press tab twice, it opens up the entire tree, which is nice. I don't use that as much anymore. That used to be like my go-to when I first started with OrgMode. And I can go ahead and like show you, oh, this one is missing a tag. So we'll do Control-C, Control-Q, Elixir. You can see I don't have the shortcut set up here because the auto-completion works well for me. And I think I have so many tags that there's no way that I could make this actually, you know, work well with shortcuts. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what kind of notes I write. So for OrgMode, I have the styling that we talked about. I have settings for this metadata, so I know that, hey, I can add an authorship and stuff like that. Let me show you these source blocks in a second. You know, how to do to-dos, how to do tags. So it's basically almost the same exact stuff that I just showed all of you, you know, with, you know, while going through the list of things that you can do in OrgMode. Yeah, I wanted to make that into a source block. But yeah, let's go ahead and look into source blocks. I think that's the only other option or only other part of OrgMode that I think is worth showing. You know, I have some cool, you know, I write down commands for Docker. If you do pull, it's pull the latest images. -D, you can spin up only one image, logs, following logs. You know, I have some cool tips like that. I create some custom shortcuts for Visual Studio Code. I use that for my coding style, so that's useful. There are some Emacs Games, and you know, I wrote down like how to use them, what to, you know, how to pull them up. There's some really cool things you can do with OrgMode. I'm going to go into those in a minute, but let's go ahead and do some source stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just add, I'm going to say JS tips. I'm huge into JavaScript. Do I have that as a tag? No, I'm going to go ahead and just add it manually. So it doesn't have to be in the list to be added. I'm going to go ahead and add it. I don't want to rerun it because I'm just kind of sick of it. I'm just going to go ahead and say, what's a good one? Let's say convert object to array. And what you can do is if you do this kind of bracket S and tab, it converts into a source block. And you can set up several different languages that you want and use those languages in OrgMode. And I'll show you what that means. I don't have JavaScript set up, which I think is just JS. There is some basic syntax highlighting for JavaScript. So what happens is that this little section here falls into, it gets syntax highlighted by whatever language you specify here. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick little thing with JavaScript. A lot of your options, I don't know if the entire major mode is of a JavaScript file is transported into the source code, but you can open these source blocks in a separate buffer in like a web major mode. It gets a little bit complicated. Let's just stick to this here. So let's just say I have an object which is kind of like a dictionary of names, and or a dictionary of let's say students. That seems to be like a fun kind of common, I don't know, yeah, it seems to be pretty common to do it this way. So we'll just go ahead and say there's someone named Jake, and Jake we'll do a full name is Jake Smith, and we'll say that there's also Mindy, and her full name is Mindy Jefferson. Right, so you can see that there's the syntax highlighting. Now let's say I want to make sure that I keep this. I want to have an array of just the full names. I don't really need the keys here. I just want to kind of list through all the different students that we have instead of having a lookup. I'm going to do something like student or whatever. And I would use something new like object values and students, and that'll give me an array. What's cool about this is, again, you can hide it. And it's really easy to kind of search through here. I might be like, hey, object to, oh, there it is. That's what I'm looking for. Here's the source block. And this is really like a majority of my notes, is being able to write down the source code, being able to kind of talk about what happens. This is using a new ES20 XX method. I don't know what version of ES20 is. It 2017, I think, maybe, is the object.values. And maybe I'm just going to put in using old method, and we'll do again another source block. And you can see that it's really easy to kind of get into this. I'm going to just copy this and paste it. Oops. And the second I put S behind the J, it gets the syntax highlighting turns on, and I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this real quick just for fun. And we'll do like an object.keys students. Let's make this nice here. Keys students dot map key, and it's going to be students key. And so this will create an array of students as well. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. You can pretty much stop the video here. It's 40 minutes. I did not intend it to be that long, but we've gone through the to-do lists. You can keep an engineering notebook this way. I do have a bookmarks list. Let me just go ahead and actually pull up my regular editor and show you how I work. The first thing that loads up is a bookmark list that's built. That's a plugin built into Emacs. You know, I have my blog articles, my daily to do, which is work, Emacs File, and let me just go through that real quick actually as well for fun. I'm trying to keep my Emacs File as brief as possible, kind of removing toolbars. I'm setting the Code iScript font, which is the Code has like the cool, what do you call it? When you do, it has the cool ligatures, but I don't have them enabled. I just like this script because I use it for coding and I'm used to it. The iScript version of it also has italics included. That's for like, I use it for in Visual Studio Code too. For like when you have a class, the function names are italicized with Code iScript. The IDO mode, you know, I'm not going to go through all of these things, but these are kind of like basics. Package manager using Melpa. I really didn't do much, you know, here. I'm using iBuffer instead of the dired, I guess, whatever, to list buffers. Again, none of this is crazy stuff. All of this is basics. You can load a variety of languages to be available in OrgMode. When I specify JS, you already saw the syntax highlighting, but when I do this, it means that I can run the code in OrgMode. And you might be now thinking like, what? Or you might be thinking like, well, this is what I came here for. So I'm going to show you real quick what that means in a minute. There are some other things. This ensures that the syntax highlighting for the languages inside of the source blocks is even better than the default. These are my basic to-do keywords. I think I would like to actually, you can specify the shortcuts here as well if you want to. And yeah, not really anything else. I have some org capture stuff, wouldn't worry about it. Here's the bookmark list. And I'm obviously wrapping my lines. So let's go ahead and open my engineering notebook in this file. So you can kind of see that things are a little bit different here. Oh, let me do it bookmark, and I have the engineering notebook, and I have it always opened whenever I'm working. Whenever I'm not working, I just always have it opened. So with those JavaScript tips, what's kind of cool about it is, you know, I want to know, yeah, you can see that the highlighting is a little bit better. I want to know if this actually works. Will this code work? And what you can do in OrgMode, this is like advanced stuff, again, you don't have to do any of this, is when you press Control-C, Control-C, I'm going to just go ahead and do student array return. The Babel package wraps all this in a function, so this is technically a function. We're going to execute it. Cool. So yeah, see, you can see I misspelled something. I'm already getting, you know, I'm getting like a stack trace for what I messed up here. So let's try it again. And here's the result. So it kind of looks funky, but it is a table. It is, you know, it is two different objects here. I wonder why it shows. Well, I guess it shows up as a table in general. But maybe I can do something fancy looking, like join at newline. And let's see how that works. And it'll update that result. Oh, it's an object now. Oh, that sucks. I don't want that. join at a comma. Still an object. Well, fine. All right. Yeah, so I can use that to verify, and now I can verify the bottom here as well. Okay, I misspelled student again. And just do return student array. Press Control-C, Control-C, and you can see I can verify that both of these results are correct. And I can keep the results there. I can just save the file, and now I have the results that have already been run. And next time I want to like see, hey, like what's the format that it's going to come out in? I can do that. Maybe I'll do a JSON stringify. We can do that. Let's see what that looks like. Whoops. I think I tapped that in by accident, so let's do this. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure why there's like some of this stuff here, but you know, I'm not an expert on this. Yeah, I think it's just escaping certain characters, and that kind of comes out funky. But outside of that, you know, you can really run this. You can do, you know, a oh, I'm trying to use some like Vim over here by accident. You can do this. You can check, you know, what is the length, and it'll tell you that there are 2 items, and so I know it works. And you can do other things like that. I'm a huge fan of this. I'm not going to be using this part, so I'll do Control K at the beginning of the line. It deletes the line. But this little source block section is what allows people to write their entire Emacs in OrgMode. And this is kind of called literal programming. And I really like this because, like, even in Elixir, you know, I will write down that in Elixir I can do, you know, this little thing where I can add a label to an IO inspect. I don't have, you can see that I don't have syntax highlighting for Elixir. There are some helpful commands in Git, like this one with the reuse message. I use bash. I think sh might work, or PowerShell, ps, I don't know. You can't see it, but the syntax highlighting is actually changing from like a darker gray to a lighter gray. You have some basic commands, and it's really nice to have this here. And I even have this, like, you know, if I get an error, and this happens sometimes, if I get a Git error where it tells me that you cannot lock a reference, I can just run this and I know that it will work. And I like that. Alright, so that's it for my video. I think there are a lot of other things you can definitely do. I have a whole section in my OrgMode advanced thing. I can do column view. What that means is if I do like Control-C, Control-X, Control-C on a to-do list, I'm going to go ahead and show that. We're going to do a Control-F, and we're going to do to-dos. Yeah, there we go. So if you just run Control-C, Control-C, Control-X, Control-C on today, it'll turn it into this like neat little table, and you can customize this. Press Q to get out of it. That's column view. There's agenda, and I just kind of listed an article for myself, but I can quickly create tasks anywhere where I'm at in inside of Emacs. If I press Control-C, Control-C, CT, it'll create a new task using a quick capture method. So let's just do that real quick. And Control-C, Control-C will give me a list of all the templates that I have set up. I'll go ahead and do a T. This will get set up in my work to-do list, so I can just quickly do that. I'm gonna go ahead and just abort it. Control-C, Control-K. You can view an agenda view. I can't really do that because the agenda it will show like work tasks that I don't really want to share, but you can do that for sure. You can execute a task, so that's an interesting one. Let's say that one of these tasks is actually several subtasks that I don't want to have a separate to-do for, like these PRs, right? I don't really need this. I just need to really check off a sequence of tasks that I need to do, right? So I can just write in an actual to-do list and write in, let's say, I don't know, Jack's bug fix PR. I can write in the second one, which will be, I don't know, review, what is it? Excel report caching PR. And then I can do, if I just type in this and press tab, press Control-C on it, it'll update and give me a list of all the tasks here. And if I press Control-C on this task, it'll mark it as done. And you can see that the list up here is updating. And this will go several levels deep. You see this? So we have 3 more tasks somewhere. Where are they? Oh, okay, so it's counting my 2 subtasks and these on-hold tasks. You see that? You can also do percentage, so you can do this, percent, and Control-C, 80% done, waiting. It's pretty cool. There are obviously just so many other things. You can export files, which I believe, you know what, I don't remember, so why don't we go ahead and just go to my engineering notebook and do export. There we go. Export. We're going to go ahead and it's Control-C, Control-E. And we'll do Control-C, Control-E. And we want to export it as an HTML file. I believe that is a plugin. So I'm going to do H. I'm going to do O as HTML file and open. And it came up in my browser. And this is what it looks like. So you can export stuff. You can see that it's like source code highlighted. Not very well, but it's there. You can see that the links, how all that is working. You will see, let's see, you have the underlined, verbatim, and italic. You have the tags show up in it a little bit differently. And there's so many different templates that you can use. I'm really kind of going over too far here, but it's really cool that you can do all these different things. You know, there are other things you can do with the org mode. So you can create tables, which I think is like so freaking cool. I use this for budgeting, so let me just show you an example in the to-dos here. We're going to do tables. And I guess I'm just kind of excited about this. So maybe those students that we wanted to are going to be in a table. And you can create a table like this, and with tab you kind of go through it. So Jack Smith, and oh, look, it misaligned. You press tab, it aligns it automatically. We have Mindy, Jefferson. Oh no, it went off. Tab, it's there. I press dash and tab. Wait, whoops. Dash and tab, and it creates like a new section. I don't know. It's kind of cool what you can do with it. You can press Alt up and down to move it. You can move the columns. So it kind of has interactive tables. Maybe I should just do a separate video on like a crash course of all the really crazy stuff. As you can see, I wrote down notes about all of this as I was learning it, and I don't use, you know, I think this might look a little bit overwhelming, all these different options, but I don't use majority of these things. I don't need to know if I'm 2 out of 5 tasks done. I generally don't use subtasks. I feel like if there's a subtask, I should just make it a top-level task. I do write down a lot of notes. Not a lot, but a good amount of notes for my to-dos as I'm working on them. The engineering notebook is so huge for me. I have really been enjoying this. I wrote down some notes like about Angular.js as well. Like for example, I work with Angular.js. You know, this has just been huge, just diving into this whenever I needed to. What do I have here? I found a cool resource for Vim, so I wrote that down. Anyway, I would love to hear what you're using OrgMode for, if you're interested in it, or what other videos you'd like to see in the future, because I think this is like really cool stuff. I'm really excited about it. I will stress again, start out very small. Start out with like the first 15 minutes of this video, where you're focusing on headings and to-do states, and that's pretty much it, because you're not going to need majority of the other things that I've taught you. If you do use the other things, it will greatly enhance your experience, but it's not necessary. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you watch more of my videos.